news and stuff from a right-of-centre viewpoint. We are beset with problems for recording tonight, and this is about our 50th attempt. I may be exaggerating a little, but I now hand over to Sam, who's going to chair the meeting for this evening, as it were. Go ahead, Sam.
Well, I think I've lost the will to live a little bit tonight, but we'll start. So I would say, firstly, the US election, but I feel like we've discussed this like so many times today. But anyway, the US election. So the media obviously predicted a blue wave. They said that, it's the Democrats' time to shine. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised that Biden won. Or did he win? Because obviously the election currently is now mired in many legal battles. Although some people think that the outcome still won't change and Trump still has no chance to win. So, Susan, what do you think about that?
Well,
also, I just remembered I had my super awesome. I know. Well, I had that super awesome intro as well, and I was like, guys, last time we met, we spoke about this and this and this, and also I deleted that by accident as well. So I've forgotten. Like I was telling everyone, like it was like previously on our podcast, all this happened. So you didn't really miss much, though, to be fair.
Do you want me to tell you how amazing that was? So Sam was really good at the original intro. 50th down the line, she's wavering a little bit now, if I'm honest with you. So no,
US election.
Well, to be fair, I'm still the same as I was 50th time ago that you asked. I'm a little bit sad about how it can be so far contested. So if you can do this much fraud, then obviously the system's not okay. So therefore, I think the system needs to be looked at. I also think if our girls from this area went and counted, that we'd have had the results in 48 hours. I don't understand why it takes America so long to do the simple math, if I'm honest with you. But I do not. One of the answers that Steve gives in a little while, which is really good, is about. Why are you laughing?
Because you're like lagging now as well, and you're lagging. No, it's because you're lagging a bit, and everyone's like, "Oh no, not a new problem." Anyway, let's power through, guys, because I'm determined that we're actually going to do this tonight. Because I've just literally think I'll cry if we don't finally get this out. So, Jonathan, what do you think about the elections?
Well, it's interesting. There has always been in Democrat areas sort of widespread ballot rigging. However, and this problem was never really sorted out when it sort of first really became an issue, which was in the 1960s. The election of John F. Kennedy, when he beat Richard Nixon, there was widespread ballot rigging there, and Nixon wasn't really bothered about going down the legal route. So the problem never really got addressed or sorted. It just carried on. Here we are today. Now, if Donald Trump, as a result of these legal actions, manages to stamp out some of this ballot rigging, he will have done America proud, even if he doesn't. If it doesn't overturn the result, it's actually more important than the result, because this sort of ballot rigging is more effective in sort of local elections, for the House of Representatives and also for the Senate. And so in a way, it is quite important that this gets addressed. And I think, all this legal activity, yes, it might, cure a cancer.
Steve, your thoughts?
I'm so tempted.
Can you follow that?
Now because Susan said what Steve's going to say in the future, and now I sort of feel like I mustn't say it because I don't want to be compelled. But then again,
but I think he can get away with it, because I don't think Susan was clear. It was like
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. I mean, no. So the gist of it is, Joe Biden is not currently the president of America. He doesn't become the president of America until some point in December. I think it's the 14th. When the various electoral college representatives go and place their votes. And then and only then does he become the president. Until then, he is not the president-elect. That's a made-up thing that the media and him have just created out of thin air. Doesn't exist. There is no office of the president-elect. Nobody is president of America. And that's why if you look at Twitter now, loads of people have changed their name to president-elect and then their name. Because everyone is legitimately president-elect in America, as Joe Biden is at the moment. Because until those representatives meet, that's it. And there's a load of legal court cases going on at the moment, so who knows what's going to happen. I hope and pray Donald Trump triumphs, but I must admit it is not looking great at the moment. But then again, maybe that's what the media want us to think. So,
I do think the media have changed their tune, because I know at the beginning it was very much like he's crazy, he doesn't want to admit he's lost, and they have gone a bit quiet lately. But I must admit, I don't hold out much hope for him, because I think even if he manages to overturn some of the results, I don't think he'll have enough to win.
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that a significant amount of voter fraud has gone on, and I hope all of those people go to prison. But whether it's enough to change the election result, I just can't say. But we have to hope. I think those of us who would like to see another 4 years of Trump, which I'm definitely one of them, and if not, then Biden. If Biden becomes the president,
the other thing,
I think there are great consequences for the world, bad ones.
Jonathan, and then Susan.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting thing about this vote by the various representatives that the states put forward is that very occasionally they turn up and actually vote the wrong way. It's not a foregone conclusion. Again, going back to 1960, Oklahoma, Nixon won, and therefore should have at that date should have got 8 votes. In fact, he only got 7 because one of them, who was sort of nutty racist, decides to go and vote for the Southern Democrats, which was a sort of breakaway part of the Democrats. People forget that the hardcore of Democrat support, were pretty racist back in the 60s. And they seem to sort of, washed everybody's memory of that. So, yeah, it isn't even a foregone conclusion until those representatives actually cast their votes.
No, and Susan?
What's the electoral college?
So the electoral.
What's the electoral college?
Oh, have I gone again?
No.
It was a bit sketchy.
Yeah, the electoral college.
So what happens is, each one of those areas it selects an electoral college member to go and vote on who the president is going to be. So each one of those wins delivers an electoral college member to the electoral college to make the vote. I forget what the actual name of that day is, but they have to go and vote as they were told to go and vote. But they don't always. They may not go there and vote for the person they normally do, but they may not go and vote for the person that they're told. And until they do it, there's no new president. President Trump, even after that, is still President Trump until January, when the official changeover happens. What irritates me, though, I really want to point this out, what really annoys me is that the lefties in America have spent the last 4 years denying President Trump's presidency, trying to fix him with collusion hoaxes and Russian hoaxes and dodgy impeachments based on basically nothing. 4 years, and yet they begrudge a few weeks of just making sure that everything's been done legally. It annoys the hell out of me. And also they forget that back in 2000, it was them who was taking everything to court, and the media declared Gore president, and he wasn't president. That was wrong. But was it 30, 40 days that the world thought he was president, then it turned out he wasn't? Could happen again.
Yeah, well, basically, another thing is that a lot of people are saying, aren't they, that he stole the election? And I was going to play a video. We tried earlier, and basically it failed and it all crashed and it was really bad news. And the gist of it is that there was a video I was sent today. It was about, it was the Mayor of New York, I think it was, yeah, Mayor of New York's daughter. I mean, it's a shame we can't see the video because for a start, she was a very strange looking girl. I mean, I know like you shouldn't really judge people's looks, but I mean, she definitely had a look going on. Like, she's just like, do you know what I mean? She was like this, her eyes were like, it's just like, it was scary. But anyway, so she was saying, she was interviewed about like what her thoughts about the election. She was going, oh yeah. I'm really so glad that we've got President Kamala Harris now in the White House, and yeah, it's so good that we were able to steal the election. And oh no, I don't mean that. I mean like yeah, we won. So it was kind of funny because obviously she like slipped up and realised what she said, but you know, I think that was quite interesting, don't you?
They haven't stole it yet.
Yeah, and it can be, or it can just be that people are jumping on every word, because we get that, don't we? Like, you cannot breathe without someone going, you breathe too hard, you didn't breathe enough if you cared. So to be fair, she could have just meant in, you know, that everyone assumed that he would win and we stole it off him, sort of thing.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander, Susan. If we can have it used against us.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
I think all we can hope for, I think all we can hope for in regards to the American election, really. I mean, if you want my view, I think Biden will still win. And I think we have to hope that the Senate does stay Republican, because I think we're going to need them to hold him to account. Because what really worries me is, I think what Biden wants to do is, I think he wants to pack the Supreme Court with like his own. He wants to like fill it, so there's this all Democrats, expand it, and that won't be good. And it'll be like that forever. And I also think that he wants to. Everyone's saying he wants to add 2 more states, aren't they? They say that he wants to add like Puerto Rico and Washington D.C. So they'll be, and like they're big Democrat areas. So like once that happens, America will vote Democrat forever. And I think that if there's a strong Senate, they're going to stop that. So hopefully that'll be the safety net for 4 years, and we won't have 4 years of like socialism. But it kind of doesn't affect us, I guess, because we're not in America, right?
See, I don't. I think it does affect us, and I think the best thing about Trump, and there's a lot of things that I don't like about Trump. I'm a supporter of him over Biden, but there's a lot of things I didn't agree with him on. The best thing about him is he didn't buy into every globalist big media nonsense that came along, and he was virtually the only world leader who doesn't, that I can see, that's significant. And I think Biden will, and I think that's much more consequential, because even if they pack the calls right and try to push through changes, if he wants to get rid of guns in America, that is such a cultural issue in America. He'll start a civil war if he tries that. He'll absolutely start a civil war, and I don't think he'd get away with it. If he packs the courts and then creates 2 new states, these things don't work. They might work in the short term, but people will kick back against it, and he'll just change the nature of voting. You can't stop the other side winning forever with a bit of electoral fudging. I'm much more concerned that he buys too much into the globalist narrative.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And I think that's an interesting viewpoint. So next we're going to be talking about Princess Nut Nut. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. I can't even show you the Princess Nut Nut emojis because we're also not that technologically advanced. But so Princess Nut Nut is a cruel nickname for. So it's a princess, and then it's a nut, and then it's another nut, basically. So Carrie Symonds was cruelly nicknamed Princess Nut Nut behind her back for months, it was claimed today. Boris Johnson's fiancée was referred so often to by the moniker that allies of Dominic Cummings reportedly even started using an emoji of a princess followed by 2 peanuts instead of her nickname in texts. A Cummings representative said Carrie's having more and more influence in decision-making as the week has shown. She is not content with being the power behind the throne. She wants to sit on it. Team Cummings claims Carrie rules the roost and calls the Prime Minister by phone from the number 10 flat 20 times a day. But again, this was fiercely denied by Downing Street. Tensions are said to have come to a head in 45-minute standoff between Boris and Dominic Cummings on Friday night, and the PM finally lost his rag with Cummings amid lockdown rows and leaks with claims he sensationally bashed the guru after being shown flattering messages that Mr. Cummings had sent Carrie. And as you all know, we then saw Dominic Cummings leaving Downing Street with his little box of possessions. So what do you think about that? I mean, I think Princess Nut Nut is a bit of a mean nickname, to be honest. It is, isn't it? Like, let's be honest.
If I'm honest with you, but are we honestly? We've got a pandemic going on. We've got all the stuff that's going on around the world, and our Prime Minister's fallen out with his best buddy because he took the mickey out of his missus. Is that literally what it's come down to right now? Because that's really worrying if it is.
Yeah, I think that's basically the gist of it, if I'm being honest.
Look, people do give each other nicknames, and they aren't always pleasant. And that is normal, I think, in workplaces and in all sorts of environments. Now, I personally, I'm not going to condone somebody being rude to a lady because I'm an old-fashioned gentleman like that. But I've heard every person in this unapologetic podcast and everyone I know give other people nicknames in the past of various types. And I don't generally think it's meant really meanly, but sometimes, here's the point. Right? I think they were calling her princess because she seems to have undue sway over Boris. Now, I personally didn't vote to elect Boris's girlfriend to be my Prime Minister, and I do sometimes feel like some of that is going on. But I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. Perhaps he genuinely has turned into a greeny eco warrior, or has always been one. I don't know. But it does sort of sound like a lot of what he's announcing is coming from her. And I guess we'll see by what happens now. See, I don't particularly have a lot of favour for Cummings either, because I think he was behind a lot of this overly, in my opinion, overly bossy scaremongering and lockdowns that I think have not been as necessary as you might think. So I do think that that perhaps I don't know though, but I don't know. None of us know really who is the originator of this stuff, do we? So we're going to have to see. If now Boris goes to pieces and just starts sounding like a Liberal Democrat, then we know that Cummings was a positive influence and we've lost that. If Boris starts talking very sensibly, then we know the opposite. But the sad thing is the initial posturings from him since Cummings went, I don't think have sounded good.
Jonathan?
Are we convinced that Cummings has gone? Because I was told that the reason he'd sort of left number 10 with a box full of stuff was part of a stunt for children in need, and that he actually hadn't gone. So what's the truth?
I think he's gone.
Who told you it was a stunt for children in need?
Well, it sounds like the sort of thing you do, wouldn't it? It's just sort of...
Is it?
Give the press something to a story for Christmas, you know. It's,
I mean, I do think like it is a bit mean to call someone Princess Nutnut, but I mean, if she is phoning 20 times a day, that is a bit like, you know, crazy girlfriend stuff. But you don't know that's true, really. And also, like, you know, he can't. I know you're saying, oh, is it just that he stuck up for his girlfriend? But then at the same time, think if you're in Boris's shoes, like. If you think how you'd feel like if your partner was like being slagged off by someone and then like it was your mate kind of thing, would you not? You got to say to your mate, look, pack it in. You can't just let that slide, can you? It's disrespectful.
No, you can't. But I don't understand how that's even part of their day-to-day lives. Do you know what I mean? They should be running the country, not. I don't understand why Dominic Cummings has got anything to do with Boris's missus and vice versa. There's a lot more stuff going on in the world. I just think they should be focused on that. Personally,
she used to be one of the number 10 advisors and a press officer or something.
Yeah,
she's part of the party machine. So she obviously never wanted to let that go. That's I think how they met, I believe. So with that in mind, I think she's got way too much influence now, and there's probably nothing we can do about it.
Okay.
He'll probably find a new girlfriend soon anyway. He gets through the girls, doesn't he? I'm not being horrible, but I think he's onto his like fourth girlfriend now. Like
my understanding was they're engaged to be married. And to be honest, if someone's ringing you up 20 times a day, when you're in a job where actually they do need to know things, even if it's only to ring up to say what time you're back for dinner, you do need conversations during the day, and you know whether it's pardon.
20 times a day. You don't need 20 times. You don't need to. I'm massively important, Jonathan, and no one phones me 20 times a day.
But I mean, the thing is, where did this statistic of 20 times a day come from? Did it come from British Telecom, or did it come from someone who you know is just fed up with him answering the phone? I mean, and. To be honest, it's easier to answer a phone and say, "Oh, it's the missus," rather than actually, it's you know.
Oh no, I just think this
becomes a news story because he was talking to the Chancellor, for Germany or something.
No, I just think it's tale as old as time, isn't it? This is just classic bloke stuff. Like they're always ribbing the guys, like oh, under the thumb and all this. It's just tale as old as time, really.
Guys,
happens everywhere.
There is a very modern word for a man who kowtows to his girlfriend at every instance and does whatever she says and constantly seeks her approval and lets her govern his life. A very modern word for it. Now, I am not calling the Prime Minister
happily married.
I'm not calling the Prime Minister a cuck, I promise. But that is the word some people would use.
A simp more than anything, I think. Anyway, that's enough about Boris Johnson and his simping. So moving on to the dreaded
Actually, another thing to pick up on there is the same time that Boris went, the first announcement was someone else going, Gordon Kay or somebody.
As a communications chief, yeah.
Yeah, well, this was a person nobody's ever heard of in a job that nobody was even aware existed leaving, and it was suddenly a thing on the media, on the BBC, and you think, how is that possibly news?
Because him and Cummings are kind of...
I think they're just keeping a very close eye.
Yeah, they work.
Yeah, but
together.
his departure was announced before Cummings.
Yeah, but
So
what's happened is a purging of the vote leave people. They were brought in initially. They've been there for most of the year, and now they've broadly gone. That's a big change in number 10.
But apparently, so the gist of it is that Carrie, so Princess Nutnut, didn't like this communications chief and wanted her friend to have the job, and got her friend a job. And then Dominic Cummings was really angry because he was like, "Look, why has your mate got the job?" And they had this big row, and then she got all upset, and then she was like, "Boris is being mean to me," and then Boris was like, "You're being mean to my missus. Like, pack your bags," and then he did. That's basic like Whiz Beach style talk of what happened. Like that's just cutting it down there. The gist of it. So anyway,
you can see why people get so fed up with politics.
If it's not politics though, it's live.
Because
It's live. It happens everywhere. Yeah, but it does happen everywhere, doesn't it? It happens in every like walk of life, every job, everything. There's kind of like all this interpersonal play going on. Anyway, we're back. We're going to talk about coronavirus now. We can't escape it, can we? It's everywhere. The big C. So with non-essential shops being closed again, there's been upset from a number of the big chains. Clinton's, the card shop, has said it's grossly unfair that supermarkets can sell greeting cards in lockdown, while specialist retailers have to shut their shop. Eddie Shepherd, who's obviously the big boss at Big Cheese at Clinton, said some retailers were exploiting ambiguities in the rules. But those deemed essential, shops that are deemed essential can continue to sell non-essential items if they are stocked on the aisles. But those shops that sell non-essential goods, such as gift books and homeware, must close. This has sparked a wave of complaints against supermarkets, garden centres and newsagents, with the boss of book chain Waterstones claiming the government guidance doesn't make sense. Garden centres and supermarkets often operate card and gift sections as large as some high street stores, yet they're still able to trade while we are not. So what do you guys think about that? Fair, unfair?
I'll go first if you want. I actually think it's massively unfair to. I just think we're just destroying.
Tell us about the shoes, Susan. Tell us about the shoes. Tell us about the shoes.
How are shoes non-essential? Like, how are shoe shops closed and non-essential? How many times have you ever gone to work without some shoes on your feet? And yet I can go to the range, and I love the range, and I understand they sell a little bit of food and bits and bobs, but I can go to the range and buy a giant Santa, a cheese board, some baubles and a throw, but I can't go to the shoe zone and buy some shoes that I need. I just don't get it. And I do think I feel so sorry for all the businesses. How can you possibly in this day and age be told you cannot make a living? You cannot make a living to provide for your family. I absolutely find it disgusting.
The range, is that a rifle range or an archery range?
It's like it's a homeware store. So they sell everything from like inspirational quote signs to bins to arts and crafts to giant Santas, and then in this tiny section just before you get there's some like cereal bars and some drinks, and they sell a few masks as well, but 99.9% of their shop is for fun. And
it's a bit like B&M's, isn't it? It's like B&M's.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I just find it absolutely disgusting. My daughter broke her shoes last week, and I can't go and take her to get new school shoes because they have to be a certain type of manner in secondary schools, otherwise they really get funny with you. I can't go, all the shoe shops are closed, all of them. It annoys me.
Mind you, it is a fairly recent phenomenon, children having shoes, isn't it?
It's not fairly recent for kids to have shoes at school, Jonathan.
Well, certainly before the war, children didn't necessarily have shoes. So, I mean, they managed then. So all you got to do is pack your child off to school with no shoes and see what happens.
Most people didn't know giant Santas from the range back then either, but we're on about today. and I do. I think it's just to tell someone that you've got the means to provide for your family, but you're not allowed to do it. I just find it really bad in myself.
Yeah, it is ludicrous, the whole thing. But the other thing about card shops, though, at the end of the day, is this in a way has brought out something that is an issue, and that is card shops are completely pointless and will die out. I mean, who buys Christmas cards?
Christmas cards.
I mean, who buys Christmas cards?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's just to tell someone that you've got the means to provide for your family, but you're not allowed to do it. I just find it really bad in myself.
Everyone's frowning here right now. I must be
birthday
honest
card.
though. Like, I must be honest. I don't tend to go and buy cards for people on the high street shops. I forget. I'm really bad with dates. I like get a reminder email like from that Moonpig the day before saying, "Did you know it's someone's birthday tomorrow?" And I'm like, so I have to like go online and order one quickly and pay like 3 times the price because I've forgotten. I think like only organised people use the card shops. Like my mum's very like card shoppy kind of person. Like she'll go and buy like the 10 cards and keep them in a drawer for, you know, in case like something comes up.
I mean, very occasionally you'll get a card which you think, wow, what a great card. But the majority, you know, like 99% of them are, you know, they stick around over Christmas, falling off the shelf, and then, you know, and creating a bit of a fire hazard, and then you just bin them. And yeah, what's the point?
So, Steve, what do you think about the non-essential essential debate?
Well, I think the whole thing is absolutely ludicrous. I think that the whole second lockdown was completely ill-considered. And a lot of people think that Boris was driven to it by the scary graphs produced by the usual bunch of experts who are always wrong. But I don't believe they were. I believe Boris was driven to it by focus groups. I believe that every time he has no clue what to do. I don't think that anyone, not just Boris, but I think leaders all over the world have this problem. They're terrified of being blamed for a death. They're terrified of being blamed for a bankruptcy. They're terrified of being blamed for a suicide. They don't know what to do, and they do whatever the focus groups tell them. But the trouble is, it's cyclical. When you spend a year terrifying everyone, you create a focus group that are going to ask you to lock down forever. And the simple consequence is this. All over the country, people are being made redundant, people are losing their livelihoods, people are losing the businesses they've spent their life building, people who just started new businesses are finding they've got nowhere to go with it. You've got people who can't get hospital treatment, who are dying. I personally know people who are very sick now because they couldn't get testing and care that might have saved them, that might have given them treatment early. And I know one local lady who died, who could not get the cancer care that she needed, and tests and the like, you know. And there are huge consequences to lockdown, but nobody wants to talk about them. Every time you say, I don't think we should lock down, you'll be accused of being selfish. You'll be told you only care about money or your wealth or your business or your family or your mental health or whatever thing. But you could equally turn the argument round. You can say, why don't you care about those things? You know, this is a balance, right? We have a virus which 99+% of people will be absolutely fine from. But that's not okay for that small percentage of people who are going to get sick and die. That's a tragedy for them. We have to protect them. But equally, there's a lot of people, and this comes back to the actual question you asked, Sam, which I am getting to. There's a lot of people who will just look at this situation and say, this is desperately unfair, and it's crippling me and destroying my life. And it's okay to say, well, it's only a month. But what if it's then another 3 months and 6 months and a year and 2 years? And they keep changing the goalposts. They're now telling you, even after you take the vaccine, you're going to have to wear a mask and socially distance. They don't ever want us to get back to normal. And we are basically terrified of what? Because the consequences, both sides, are dreadful. So this is like a decision by committee. We're led to this situation where these rules have been put in place. They're never going to be fair. How can they be? Because they're arbitrary. Desperately grasping for something that seems to work is always going to leave some people out in the cold and some people getting undue benefits, and none of it, in my view, none of it is warranted.
Interesting.
I actually really agree with you, Steve. I really think, I don't know if everyone has been watching them. Some of the videos, some of the businesses have been put up where they've been. And the worst thing is that I don't think it's doing any good for the police. Has my audio gone funny again?
It's come back now.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
You're not saying anything.
All right, sorry. So I don't know if anyone has been watching the videos where I must say, oh, what?
Just speak.
I'm going to give up in a minute.
No, just speak.
Oh, okay, so I don't know if you've been watching the videos where people have been fined and the police have been turning up in their droves to shut down little charity shops and stuff like that. And I just, it's absolutely heartbreaking, I find. I also don't think it does anything for the police and public relations. I mean, when you've got police fining law-abiding citizens for making a living, I just find that really sad. And I agree with you, Steve. There is no winning and losing in this, but there is a way. We have to move forward as a country, and we can't keep paying out if we're not earning any money.
You're right. So it's disgusting.
No, I agree.
It's disgusting because the police can turn up in droves to terrorise some poor business owner for, God forbid, opening their business for 10 minutes. And they can turn up in their droves for that, but you call them because there's some antisocial behaviour going where somebody's scared in their street and you won't see them for 6 hours. It is disgusting. It's totally the wrong priority.
Yeah.
No, I don't disagree. It's just priorities are all wrong, really. So anyway, we've had
another thought. All the students who went back to university, instead of getting them to social distance, it might have been an idea to say, actually, the Freshers' Week and thereafter, you must socialise and you must get close to people. And if you can get COVID, you're going to get it. And they would have produced, with roughly, there's 500,000 students, I think, 500,000 people who would have had it and would not have been, for the most part, affected by it. And, it would have immunised, 500,000 British students. They missed an opportunity with that.
That's the latest thing, Jonathan. They're now saying that there is no herd immunity for COVID. And again, this is disagreed. Different doctors agree and disagree. But that's the latest narrative. Now that the herd immunity was getting a bit too much traction, suddenly everybody's saying, oh, no, there is no herd immunity. You catch it a million times. And that's why Boris has just been put back in lockdown again, hasn't he? Even though he literally just had it bad.
Yeah, but he hasn't got it again, as far as anybody knows.
No,
and in fact, there are almost no instances of anybody ever catching it twice. And if they are, they're such a statistically tiny part of the total that they're probably just wrong.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone's ever going to know at the moment for a while the truth with coronavirus. But on a happier news story now, you know how we all like to have a bit more of a funny news story in the podcast at the end. So how about this one? So a key ally of Brazil's president has been arrested after anti-corruption officers discovered a wad of banknotes in his underpants. Police initially found 10,000, I think it's reis or reis, I don't know how you spell the Brazilian currency, but it was £1,380, and then another 4,650 inside a safe in Senator Chico Rodriguez's house during a search on Wednesday. He then asked if he could go to the bathroom, and according to the police report, an officer noticed a large rectangular bulge under the senator's shorts as he walked off. Found inside his underwear near his buttocks were stacks of money that totaled 15,000 reis, which is $2,000. When asked a further 3 times whether he had any additional cash stowed in his underpants, the senator angrily shoved his hand into his underwear to retrieve more stacks of bills totaling £2,500. This is my favourite bit to the story. A subsequent search turned up another £35. He's now been suspended. So,
how much money in total? Sorry, how much in total?
In total, it was 4,650. But I don't know. The subsequent search, it turned up the £35. Where was the subsequent search carried out? That's what I want to know. It's not clear, is it?
I mean, most people have that in their house normally. What's the issue?
Yeah. I was going to say, he's not very good at corruption if that's all he's got out of it, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, it's a bit hopeless.
And also, no, I'm not going to go there, actually.
Don't.
He simply might have had a bit of a problem with something like the runs, and he's just got more money than he knows what to do with, and he thought, I've got to use something.
I just don't understand why he stuffed it at the back and not the front of the trousers. That's what doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
I don't know why
it looked like he had a good booty.
Where did he get it from? Like, unless he just stole it there and then, why would he have it in his crotch anyway?
No, because what happened is, that's what I said at the beginning. So he had it in a safe. That's what they're saying. And then the police came in and was like, "Oh, what happened?" And then he quickly took it out of the safe and stuffed it in his pants.
But what if this is the real magic money tree? What if he is somebody who is able to actually produce money out of thin air, but it has to appear in his pants? I mean,
and every time he gets scared, he produces £35 out of his bum.
Well,
That's
apparently
so
it's funnier
weird,
because
though.
he
Well,
calls.
how are they saying it?
Well, basically, the the president of Brazil, he's kind of portraying himself at the moment as like an anti-corruption guy. So he's one of his senators, and apparently he's not only a senator, but he's a deputy leader.
Oh, come on. They didn't find it in his pants. They found it in the other guy's pants.
Well, apparently the raid was part of an operation against suspected misappropriation of public funds to fight COVID. The Estado de Sao Paulo newspaper said 2 sources told it more than 4,000 was stashed in the underpants of Rodriguez. To give you a sense of just how preposterous the situation was, some of the recovered notes were stained with feces. It was a scene of considerable embarrassment. Crusoe said of the moment police made their discovery while scouring his home in Boa Vista. Brazilians shared the news under the viral hashtag Propanina Nubunda, which apparently means a bribe up the bum.
Hold on, I call bullshit on this, and let me tell you why, right? They found the money in his safe. He's quickly stuffed it in his pants. So how did Pooh get all over the money unless he like had a really dirty bum, right? Because
He's clearly not a good wiper, Steve.
He'd have to be
He's not a
really
wiper.
bad wiper.
He's a
This
thief,
has all.
and he's not a
This has
wiper.
all the elements of fake news.
Or shitty politician.
See what you did there?
Boom, boom, boom.
Well, it's like all over all the news, to be honest.
Well, it makes more sense why it's such a small amount. Do you mean because if you're going to be corrupt, you might as well go for the big money. But it makes more sense why it's only a small amount of money now, I guess.
It tells you everything you need to know about the global media, that this is all over the news, and there's so little mention of all the voting corruption in America.
Yeah, I suppose. It takes a new money laundering to a no level, though, doesn't it? Really.
He needs to launder.
It's like money anti-laundering.
This is what we.
If that's the best that he can do, he shouldn't be in government.
This is what is known in the business as dirty money.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, I'm just reading different versions of the story, and it changes quite a lot. So now apparently he's a far right senator, and apparently now it's $5,000. Yeah, it probably is about £4,500.
It's not really changed at all, then, Sam.
No, not really. But this is what I can't even do the screen share, but one of the stories says some of the cash police recovered, and it's like 4 suitcases full. So how on earth did he stash that?
In his pants.
Yeah, but not that much. I mean, how big are these pants?
Great big pants.
No wonder somebody noticed something was slightly wrong, though, to be fair.
Yeah,
Good police work.
Why have you got those gigantic pants? Are you a circus clown?
Well, anyway.
Having said that, Sam, you've cast suspicion on yourself now, haven't you?
Why have I?
Oh, sort of big pants. Could be full of money.
It's full of booty. But thanks for, just telling the entire podcast that I have a big bum. I love that. That was wonderful. It's people are now also going to wonder how you know. And just for people that are watching this that don't know us, Jonathan is a friend of mine, not in a special way, just a friend. So he's seen me. So I'm making this sound actually worse than it is, to be fair.
Jonathan, you're not exactly svelte yourself, I've got to say.
Anyway, some guys like the bigger booty. I'm not ashamed. I mean, I'm sure the haters that are watching this of the usual crowd will be making fun of this on Twitter and being and drawing me as a pig again. But I don't really care, to be honest. You got what you got. You got what you got. Anyway, you go, girl. Anyway, thanks a lot, everyone. I'm sorry that it's been mired by so many technical problems tonight, but we finally got there in the end. So bye, everyone. Buy a better microphone next time. It's an ironic set of circumstances when Jonathan, who has the best audio, I mean, for people that have not watched before, Jonathan always has the worst audio of anyone. And tonight he probably has the best. So it's quite funny.
I've got to move the internet cable back up here, I think.
Yeah.
too.
Okay, guys. Well, anyway, as much as you probably love our waffling on, thank you very much for watching, and good night.